cut out last week because I heard you were giving a speech.
I did. I was giving a speech about the SLAM test.
The SLAM test.
The SLAM test.
What's
That's the Observer's marketing tool where we kind of analyze our ads to make sure that they're going to work right. But you can use it for your own do-it-yourself marketing too. So
no, okay.
Yeah.
So did you get a round of applause?
Yeah, there was some laughter, some tears. It was all good.
All right. Well, here, just in case you didn't, here you go.
Thank you so much.
Make you feel better. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Somebody told me afterward that I should do stand-up, and I went home and I told my kids that, and they all totally disagreed. They thought that it would be.
Well, then that's a good sign.
I would be booed off the stage
because you're dry sense of humor.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we all get it.
Doesn't work.
Leanne Pennington, do you think Brian should be a stand-up comic?
No, I don't think Brian should be.
John,
I decided to quit my job.
John Rogers, what do you think?
Man, I'm just happy with Brian that our Mets have won the last 8 out of 10 games, and we're the hottest team in baseball.
Not just the hottest team, the best team in baseball.
I love that.
Okay.
Most wins.
All right. Well, anyway, slam test, Mets, don't know much about all that. We were talking, though, about the St. Johns River. Of course, Leanne Pennington is our county commissioner out on the west side out there into the wilderness and everything. You go out there and drive around in the wilderness?
I'm out there, about 3-4 days a week. I'm out there. And I've come to know all the families out there, so I'll pop in and just talk with them. And
Aren't they in the South? Aren't they obligated to invite you to dinner? If
we
you
do.
knock on their door?
I go a lot with Rhonda and them over to Essex House. I don't know if you've ever been out to Essex House. It's kind of like when you're out there, they go, instead of coming into town, they go even further out.
They have the best shrimp.
They do.
It's right on State Road 40, right before Astor.
Old belly clam. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good. Well, I'm glad we meet. Oh, that wraps up the show today.
Hey.
John Rogers, of course, is our vice mayor for the city of Bunnell. And I'm like, so much stuff going on in Bunnell. It used to be, there was nothing going on in Bunnell, even though it was the second largest city in the state of Florida, landmass-wise. And now, all of a sudden, like 8,000 homes that these big developers are coming in and everything. Is it overwhelming?
Well, they know that Bunnell is open for business, and our staff is friendly, and our service is excellent.
Okay. So you're a good place to do business.
We are an excellent place to do business.
Well, and Alvin Jackson, of course, he like he said, he sits in he's waiting in an airport. He'll say, what do you do? And somebody goes, to build it in Bunnell. So he's always selling Bunnell nonstop all the time.
Yeah, when he retires, I'm going to send him over to Brian at the Observer.
You could use a good salesperson. Sounds good.
So are we overselling Bunnell is the question. Are we changing the character of it? Are we making Bunnell, is it turning into something that the people of Bunnell just never wanted to see?
Well, that's who we work for. As elected officials, as your board, we work for the citizens of Bunnell, the citizens of Flagler County, citizens of Palm Coast, Flagler Beach, Beverly Beach, and Marineland. And I named them all because what we do with a major project affects everybody. And we have to, in good conscience, recognize that as the city leaders.
Okay. All right. And so you had a big town hall meeting with this 8,000 homes, a developer out of Jacksonville wanting to, it's like trying to create a little city within the city there. And people showed up in force. What happened?
Well, they have been coming. And, I remember when Waste Pro wanted to build on Bay Street. And one man, George Cooper, made a difference. One man held up that whole project. So I was concerned when the citizens said that their voice don't matter. That concerned me because their voice matters. It matters to this commissioner. And when you have a project that we have never seen nothing like this before in Bunnell. There's nothing comparable to it. There's no compatibility to this project anywheres in Flagler County. So it concerned us. The citizens came out. They spoke their piece. And I don't know if you listened to the meeting or not. Did you listen?
Parts of it, yep.
I was willing to negotiate with them on the rooftops. And I was thinking 3,500, 4,000.
I mean, even that is a lot.
That's a lot.
So
that's a lot. But, you know, so we're there was a motion right away to go ahead with the whole project. And then there was a second, and then there was discussion. And then the people came up and spoke. And one after another came up and spoke. Only one was in favor for it. The rest of them were opposed. You know, they were talking about the traffic, the infrastructure. They were just, every topic, every item was covered.
So my question about that project, and like others, is if it's perceived, and some of it is kind of unknown until it would happen anyway, right? But if it's perceived, then it seems likely that a big development would cause a lot of stress on a city's infrastructure. Can you say, well, you know, you can come if you solve all those problems? I mean, even though they're not all kind of like, legally mandated, but, are we worried about wastewater and water facilities? Are we worried about roads? Like, what exactly is the biggest concern, other than, because I think part of it's with Palm Coast, Bunnell, anywhere, Flagler Beach, Veranda Bay, everywhere that there's anything planned. Some of it is just like change equals bad, and I think that we got to be a little careful about that ruling the day. You know.
So, let's talk about Port Orange. Okay. How in 2004 they had the hurricanes down there. There was no flooding. Milton, South Daytona, Port Orange was covered in flood. I mean, Bevel Road on both sides, the water was up to my chest. I have girls that play basketball that live in them neighborhoods. We couldn't even get back there to rescue them. That's how high the water was. And what's the difference? The difference is the new construction. And so, you know, there's experts that can argue about that fact. They can argue about the traffic. And the traffic, you got State Road 11, State Road 100, and US 1. You put 8,000 homes out there. Let's say 2 cars for each house. That's 16,000 vehicles, okay? 2 trips a day. Do the math. Our roads are already at its capacity right now. You try to get out on 100 in the morning. Try to get out on 100 West in the morning. 11. Try to get through that traffic light in the morning. So now,
Which traffic light are you talking about?
US 1 and 111 or 100 East.
Yep.
You try to get out there. But check this out. Go ahead and add 16,000 cars. Now, it'd be great for my business, but it wouldn't be great for the constituents and the people of Flagler County.
So, but your planning board approved this, right? Or, in January or something.
They did, but it wasn't.
So what were they thinking? If
it was 4,900 homes, 4,900 homes. They approved it. But that wasn't the motion on the table. The motion was for the whole kit and caboodle.
So is the land zoned? What is the land zone now?
Agriculture, conservation.
So it had to go from agriculture to residential.
Correct.
Yeah.
And some commercial, some industrial. But
Who owns the land, and what do you think is going to happen next?
the Allen family. And, you know, I don't know yet.
Do they carve it up and sell it in smaller pieces to different people?
You're going to have to ask them. I don't
that's
know.
1,700 acres.
Because what I wonder is if you ended up with, if they're motivated and they want to do it, and you say, okay, well,
2,700 acres.
2,700. Okay,
27.
thank you.
let's say we have, let's say they carve it up and they say, well, we'll sell this little chunk for 500 homes, and that gets passed, and then 1,000 homes, and that gets passed, and 500 more, and that gets passed. Would that be more palatable? Leanne, what were you
Go
gonna
ahead,
say?
Leanne,
No,
jump
I was
in
going
there.
to say some of these large 8,000 homes sort of need to be phased in, right? And I think that's what you're trying to say is we're not against it. I need you to phase it in. We have to plan, and we have to get the State Road 11 and 100, and we don't really have a plan for 8,000, 16,000 cars for that corridor. Is there a developer willing to eventually build it out, but we do it in phases.
Were they?
bring
Was
it in
that not
phases.
ever
I don't
part of
think
the
it was.
negotiation?
Did you read the traffic study? Anybody?
Yeah, yeah.
You read the traffic
Yes, I
study?
did.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that is definitely going to overcrowd our roads. But
Well,
people-
what did the traffic study say?
It was like 40,000 extra vehicles trips per day, and we're already at our capacity right now.
So they would have to. I mean, isn't that what impact fees and all that other stuff do?
Two different roads. Them roads belong to the state.
State. And we don't have
And
we don't
the
know what the
state
state
wouldn't-
planning is for it
Okay.
yet. Right.
In Palm Coast, I believe they are talking about like, do we want to add capacity to State Road 100, even though it's a 100, even though it's a state road, that because we feel that it needs to be, more robust than it is. I know enough to be dangerous on that, but
Well, they have a bigger checkbook than we have.
And I think that was the county was there at your meeting. The attorney and he and I talked a little bit beforehand about that. We sent a letter, a 23-page letter up to the state because we wanted to hear the states, because that actually goes through a flume change. I mean, you can't just go to ag to industrial
land
without the
use
state.
map.
Yeah, you can't go through that without the state weighing in on it. And Adam Mingle from our department wrote an eloquent letter of our concerns because it does abut unincorporated county.
did the state approve it? Did the state?
Well,
have
the
any
state
concern?
had concerns. They had just about the same concerns we did. And I think one of the things Adam said was we hadn't seen what the Department of Transportation said, if I recall correctly. And we're not trying to stop it. We're trying to say, did they have the same concerns as we are? Is this something we need to go back and talk more with planning? We offer fire to Bunnell. Is that something that, we may need a fire station? Are they willing to provide us land for this? We have to plan.
I
as
watched
well.
the county workshop where this came
Yeah.
up, and it seemed like they were, and I did get a little bit of a rub where the county goes, hey, they're having this big meeting and we weren't invited, should we go there? And he asked for permission to, for the county. It seemed like they felt like they were kind of in the dark on these things, and the communication hasn't been that good between Bunnell and the county. Is that true?
Right. It's not that it's not good. It's the same with all municipalities, right? I mean, I didn't even learn about the industrial thing till a resident called me, and I had to text Alvin and say, hey, what's going on? Because it's still my district, what is that? But the county is shifting in some respects because we've changed our comp plan. We're going to be bringing back a long-range planning board, and we're hoping all municipalities will seat on it for projects like this, because where it impacts the county is fire and rescue, right? Roads, it can be annexed into the city of Bunnell, but it's still our road that we have to maintain certain things. So we need to know so we can plan and we can budget for it as well. Equipment, fuel farm, well, I'm sure you'll touch on that later. Mm-hmm. We need to know that we have the equipment for that sort of stuff. It's just not something we want to wake up and find out about, especially these projects that that's one of the largest projects in the history of Bunnell, obviously. So.
Brian?
It seems like this project. I mean, I've been hearing about the reserve at Hawk Creek for how long has it been? A year or so?
About a year.
That it's been
2 years.
2 years.
Mm.
So if we're worried about like, will there be land for a fire station? How will it impact the roads? Is it just that those questions don't really technically need to be resolved at this stage of the game, or why haven't those been resolved already? I mean, these people are coming in to spend how many millions of dollars to make this happen? They don't want it to be a crappy project that fails. Aren't they motivated to like make it really successful and make it a wonderful, amazing place?
And that's exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
However, we have to caution the number of rooftops, and that's my concern.
I got a quote here from the Observer. I'm plagiarizing. Don't sue me here.
You're citing and reading. That's good.
Well, and I'm gonna.
I'll be
It says
your witness.
John Rogers said at a proposed 8,000 homes, a development of this size has the potential to change the entire character of the city. Explain how it would change the entire character.
Well, you look at our little 4 square miles, our little neighborhoods.
Whoa! It's the second biggest
No.
city.
The original. Okay. So now we annexed all this land, and they annexed the land in before I became a member of the board, and they annexed all the land in, So now here comes this major project that nobody's prepared for, and as Leanne will tell you, her phone rang off the hook from all the residents on the west side and the citizens in Bunnell with concerns. And I think that just the magnitude and the size of this project is what the problem is, the number of rooftops.
Well, and then think politically. I mean, already Grand Reserve has changed the politics of Bunnell, where the long-term families and the heritage, people had been there for years and whatever and loved and looked out for Bunnell. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you're turning the reins over to a whole new slew of a vast majority of voters almost overnight that would totally, outvote any of the locals, the original locals.
Newcomers.
Oh,
Right.
That's correct.
So it would go from a city of what's population of like 3,000-ish?
3,300.
3,300. And do you know down to the number? So about 3,300 people. So let's say it adds another 16,000. It would be obviously it would change the entire character of the whole place. But it would still go from a tiny city to still a very small city. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I guess I'm wondering, like, if there's flooding issues, I think it would be good to know, like, well, what is the science behind that, and is there, because the laws say you can't if you're going to build something, you can't let your water run off to other people's property. So like they would be doing their job, right? Everyone would have to approve it, sign off on it, get engineering done to make sure that they were not causing flooding. I mean, because of the way the land is now, it still would probably impact things. But if those could be analyzed and figured out, and they say, okay, I know it's not your land, but if you're going to build this, then you got to make sure to fix the flooding that exists on the surrounding lands. And how many millions would that cost, and would they be willing to pay that?
So there's 1,200 acres of wetland out there on the 2,700 acre project, but they're gonna have to put roads through them wetlands. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You see the big lawsuit, the Morgan & Morgan was representing people.
I say it like this: the feds think that the state are managing these water things. The state thinks the locals are managing it, and then the locals think the state's managing it. And guess what? It gets built and it's not managed properly. Mm-hmm. So it's something that it's not. I know it's 2 years in the making, but that's why the county sent a letter over to the city of Bunnell asking to work on it, and I think it needs to be worked on.
I think we're kind of at a point. I don't want to go on and on about all these and what could happen and everything. I'm getting bored with the conversation here. Okay, so
he wants the good
but we're told all the time that residentials don't pay for themselves. They actually then become a burden after the impact fees are in and everything, and that's why we need more jobs and all that. I mean, that's what Palm Coast is struggling with, and all these people, want to come in. And if you own land, you have a right to use your land. You have a right to sell your land. You have a right to rezone your land. And you have a right to have people build on the land. So I think the master plan that you're working on, right, for the city of Bunnell would be if this isn't the right place for this type of project, I mean, and I do like developers, by the way, because these are the risk takers. These are the rock stars that come in and make great cities and great communities and provide us with great shopping and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So to look at the developers as bad guys, I think is a horrible thing to say. And even like Theresa, Pontieri, the developers have been running this city, for too long. Well, no, the developers haven't running a city. The developers only do what you say they can do. And if you tell them they can do it, and then they put a plan together, and then you go, no, we don't like that, whatever, I feel bad for the developers. So to me, the developers are the creators. They're the ones that make it happen. They invest. They take the risk. And if you say this is where that 8,000 homes would go great, and maybe it's not within the city limits, maybe it's out in the county or something where you can give them a kind of a palette to say, okay, look, this would work for that over here. Wouldn't they appreciate that? Wouldn't that be better for everybody rather than trying to squeeze something in that brings all kinds of problems with it. Leanne?
No, I had to listen to that. Great developers work with us, right? So they understand our struggles, our concerns about traffic, our issues that we can't just make changes because we have to check with the state. We need to know what the state's planning is on State Road 11. Great developers will work with us and we'll get a good product out of it. And I'm sure Ms. Pontieri wasn't here for that conversation, meant it to say, they've gotten a lot done, and the city's not necessarily been able to keep up with it. Impact fees haven't necessarily been able to keep up with inflation. All these things are occurring, right? Great developers will work and give us a good product at the end, and I think there is that, yeah.
But if I'm a developer and, like you said, okay, it was approved for so many, and then they increased it, whatever, and they go back to what it was approved for, would that number be workable for you, John Rogers, Vice Mayor, if they backed it down?
They originally came in at 6,000. And then it was bumped up to 8. So, I'm still not comfortable at 6. I'm willing to negotiate.
You are comfortable at 6?
I'm not comfortable at 6. I'm willing to negotiate.
So like 45?
45 would be a good number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm the developer.
So what's the next step?
The planning and zoning approved 4,900.
Do you think that that it may come back and happen, or are the developers not planning anymore?
I'm sure that we haven't heard the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll come back and negotiate and say, just tell us what we can do, not all the problems that'll be created from something. Because, like you say, they want to work with you. They don't want to create a big mess and all that. So anyway, so what else is going on in West County out there, driving around in the mud and the blood and the
mosquitoes,
beer and the mosquitoes?
I'm here to tell you Bull Creek is
There's
coming.
Blood and beer, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of, is Bull Creek coming back with a restaurant, and that's been ordered.
When is that?
It'll be done by March. So we had a little bit of a delay, and the delay was because we're redoing the seawalls out there, docking, coming back with that restaurant. We had to find a vendor for the restaurant, which was,
Do we have one?
There is one that's been picked. The contract has not come. There was a process.
Who is it?
I can't tell you because
Just us, just Brian and me.
It is
McDonald's?
it is a family out there, and it's kind of important. That was kind of like, I think Miss Petito's reasoning was it's kind of important to have somebody that lives out there that has a big family that can operate it.
Okay.
But we bought
Who has a big enough?
they all have big families, right? The McCraney property, we had to buy. We were in the middle of buying that with environmentally sensitive land funds. So
And there'll be RVs also?
there is a long-term plan to turn that into, I think, 50 RV slots, widen up the parking lot because the fishing season's getting bigger and bigger. There's not enough parking for trucks and trailers out there. And
People that haven't been out there, kind of explain to them, get a little tourist speech to it and paint the picture because
man.
it was so cool. I remember when, was it Chris and Joe Rizzo had
they had the restaurant.
had the restaurant out there. It was so cool to go out there for breakfast and on the lake, and you could put your boat and go from there into Crescent Lake, right?
That's correct. Yeah. You pass a bunch of beautiful farms down 2006. It dead ends into to Bull Creek and Dead Lake, and I think it's pretty much the only place the public can see the sunset in the west over water. And it was beautiful, and it got flooded in the hurricane, and we were lucky enough I got lucky, I guess I should say, because we were going to put a little concession stand type thing back. But we got lucky, and the state funded the restaurant that's coming in out there because of the hurricane and the loss.
Is there room for 8,000 homes out there?
Yeah, I don't think I call it my version of the West. The unincorporated county would appreciate 8,000 homes over those farms. So
Yeah.
What is your
we're gonna
email address?
We're going to take a hard pass on that, and I'll just speak for those folks out there. Not
All
right
right.
now, sir.
All right, so
Yeah.
West County farmers, they so much, I love them all, and they kind of, run into I have some consultants out there with the cattle and the blueberries, but
Bok choy.
Bok
Bok
choy.
choy. Everybody loves that one,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
So farming is healthy in Flagler County because it's a huge part of our economy.
Yeah, it keeps. Yeah, there's an argument of what drives the economy here, right? Construction, farming, tourism, all of them are important to us in Flagler County, and they're happy, they're healthy, they're doing well. We're doing a ditch project out there, hopefully to alleviate some flooding concerns. You saw after Milton, we had a lot of flooding out there, particularly in the farms, and those guys are really great at mitigating some of their flooding, but that shouldn't be the case. So the county used ARPA funds, which is federal funds, to dig out 302 Canal, Firecracker, some of those main canals that run out there. So we're doing that project now and wrapping up.
Okay.
And we hope that alleviates some of the big concerns.
So what's going on with the fuel farm in
boy.
Bunnell? So what's
Now we're talking.
I'm going to the restroom.
well, here's what I've been told. And this is a radio talk show, by the way, so we can say whatever we want for the most part. But I've heard that if the fuel farm ends up out over there, US 1 over in
You're talking
in
about the Belvedere fuel farm.
Favorite area, that fuel prices could easily drop 5 cents a gallon here in Flagler County because our rates are high because it's such a far distance to ship it from where they are right now. So if we had it over there where there's cows and sod and things like that. So do you think it would be a good thing for all of us? And it's got to be somewhere.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen nothing. There's nothing coming on our agenda.
I'm under NDA. The county.
Are you under NDA?
Under NDA.
Non-disclosure?
Clearly not.
Yeah. You didn't sign something saying we're not allowed to talk about this?
John Rogers hasn't signed nothing.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Well,
But he doesn't know anything. Well, that's no
it is
good.
in the public, so I
Okay.
can talk a little bit about what.
Yeah.
It was, slated to be proposed up in the Palm Coast area, so
Right.
that's where we originally saw it. That's why I'm under NDA, because the county was involved in that. Our board spoke. There was a grant associated with the state of Florida that would give them $10 million.
Department of Commerce?
Economic Opportunity and Commerce,
okay.
right? Yeah, and so that's why our board was involved, because we would be the approver of the grant coming here.
So that was a $10 million grant.
Yeah.
That was to facilitate Belvedere terminals to to contribute to buy land in Palm Coast so that they could do a fuel terminal that would be a cog in the way to kind of make.
Yeah, it's a state initiative
Yeah.
to bring in fuel by rail, right? To get it in here quicker for disaster relief. So we were involved because of the grant. The county was. When it became apparent that Palm Coast was not interested, how that debacle, we don't have to rehash it, came up. Our board, we had concerns as well. There were some concerns mentioned. I mentioned the concern. Jacksonville, who has fuel farms, have had 15 fires since the inception of fuel farms up there. They had great recommendations, and they've learned you have to be near a big body of water. They had to pump out the St. Johns River for, I think, 115 hours on their last fuel farm fire. They have to have special equipment. They had to shut down I-10, and so now you're thinking, well, this might be near US 1. It's not near a big body of water. So we had concerns. Do we have the equipment? Do we have the hazmat training? Because we would be the fire and rescue along with Palm Coast. Do they have it? So we had concerns to begin with. So I wouldn't say that our board was, we needed to completely address these before we even considered a fuel farm. But it didn't work out for Palm Coast. Our board politely agreed and came to a consensus that we asked the state of Florida to remove Flagler County from consideration for that grant. Period. It doesn't mean I can't speak to it. They may be able to continue to do the grant anywhere else. They may be able to insert Bunnell into that conversation or that grant. I don't know. But that was the consideration after it. And that's the last
So did they
we've
approve?
seen or heard of it.
The state said, okay, we'll take Flagler
I
off.
think Ms.
the
Petito said,
consideration.
yeah, they've removed us from the consideration. Because
Okay.
our board has to consider on those.
So there has been some rezoning to put it in Bunnell over in the favorite area, right? Am I up to date on that?
I
haven't
don't
seen
know
no
that.
rezoning.
I don't know.
Really?
That.
Okay.
Yeah, that's news.
But there is how many acres? 1,800 or so that was being proposed to be rezoned, or is that what's the
that's separate
status of
from
that?
this. That is the Lynn Lafferty. That's the Lafferty family and everyone's your heavy industrial, which is
Still
not.
the Allen family.
Or the, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the rail, John Rogers? We got a beautiful railroad going right through Bunnell
Gorgeous.
and Flagler County, and we always hear that there's a need for maybe a rail, like a spur, where it could be economic development for industrial and things, to put a rail spur off, and Bunnell holds a lot of that great land and possibility. Is that something on the radar?
That is our next meeting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, there's something.
News alert.
What's on the what exactly is on the agenda related to that?
There's 1,000 some odd, to be exact, acres. We'll talk about 17. There was talk about 1,200, somewhere around there, to be rezoned to industrial.
From what to what?
From the
Ag.
From
ag
to
to
industrial.
To industrial.
So what are the pros and cons
Heavy
of that so far that you
yeah, they mentioned heavy. It is right there by 304 in US 1, all the way down to Belterre. So
Belterre Boulevard where it hits US 1.
where it hits US 1, it's a little south of that.
Across from the K and S section, right?
So exactly. So there's talk about that.
What's the pros and cons of that to you
Well,
as far as rezoning that
so
land?
the concerns I have is the unknown. So at least with the reserve at Hog Creek, we have a PUD. We have a plan. We see what they're doing. This is just signing your name to a check and saying, "Here you go, Leanne, spend it."
It's a rezoning change.
We don't have nothing solid.
Yeah.
So, well, can you guys crosstalk here? I
So,
mean, I'm sure you would about
it's
this,
not
like
in the
because
county,
everybody,
it's in the city of Bunnell for
Correct.
them. But
everybody agrees we need industry, we need jobs, or everything. That's what really makes it we're missing, in whether it be Palm Coast or the county or Bunnell. And so, if we had a rail yard with where what companies could, they're looking for that with distribution and things. And I mean, if we kind of like created it where without maybe a client, a speculative type of thing where this is what we could do if you want to invest.
Look, and I don't want to break confidence of the landowner there, but they are working to try to change some of that because it does impact housing. There is it's Old Hall Creek up in that area. So there was some impact to housing. So they are working to change the dynamics of that zoning right now to accommodate. I mean, listen, I heard it said great. Planning and zoning was really created to protect those. It's a health and safety thing too, right? I mean, you can't just assume that the heaviest industrial, which could be up to a fuel farm, waste equipment, nuclear waste, it has a lot of parameters, things that could go in the bucket, should necessarily be abut housing. It's just, this is a health and safety thing. It's not just about a taking of their value of their homes or anything like that. It's a health and safety concern too. We need jobs. We desperately need jobs. We desperately need to tap into the railroads down there. But they've got some work to do on that project. They just do because it does affect a lot of housing around it. And that's where the unincorporated county is trying to, again, come back with that long-range planning, say, we want this, we need this, where does it best suit and fit and belong?
Isn't that kind of exciting, John Rogers, Vice Mayor, that, there's possibilities of this type of thing?
There's all kinds of possibilities, and we're excited about the possibilities, but this commissioner's not excited about the unknown. So that's where we have to be the watchman on the wall. We have to be the gatekeeper of our communities. And we got to listen, not just to special interest. We have to listen to our constituents. And I hear that train coming. You hear that rail coming?
I think it's coming for us, John. I'm not sure. I think he's trying to.
We got to take a break.
We got to take a break.
Get out of the way, John. Get off the track.
Sunshine when she's
Everybody run
gone.
for it. All right, we'll be right back. John Rogers talking about rail and people and growth and all kinds of exciting things in Flagler County coming up. And what about the beaches? Leanne's been dying to talk about that. That's coming up next, right after this.
For the best happy hour on the beach every day from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You'll love these drinks.
Johnny D's Beach Bar and Grill. We're waiting for you.
He's Carla.
And that's Alan.
If you don't know who we are,
Now you do.
we're the owners of your local Benjamin Moore paint store.
Next time you're thinking about painting, think about us. Benjamin Moore, corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
This is attorney Michael Politis. You pay your bills. You pay for your insurance every month, year after year. And then one day, bam, you're in an accident. After all that loyalty and all those payments, does the insurance company want to pay you when you finally need them? No. They're happy to take your money, but never want to pay when they should. Don't trust an insurance adjuster to do right by you. They work for the company, and their job is to save money, not spend it. I want to work for you. Who should you trust? Politis and Matavina, the Justice Attorneys, offices Palm Coast, Ormond Beach, Port Orange, and Orange City.
Are you experiencing high energy bills? Now is the time to upgrade your old inefficient windows and doors. Don't miss Renewal by Andersen's 30th anniversary sale. For a limited time, buy one, get 130% off all windows and patio doors. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com now to take advantage of this incredible offer. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service. Restrictions apply. License number CGC 1527613.
We're back, Free for All Friday, Friday the 13th, and I looked up AI, Friday the 13th. Why is it? That's really stupid reasons why it's supposed to be unlucky. So stupid, they're not even worth bringing up, and I'll never bring it up again, even though, like, some people are superstitious. Are you superstitious?
No.
Leanne? No. John Rogers?
Even
Not
though
really.
The truck broke down on the way here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by the way, is your son, what's Clinton? Is that?
Yeah, Clinton.
Hey, Clinton. He's you can see him on the video in the background there. His truck broke down, and you had to call Rogers Towing.
John's Towing.
John's Towing. Okay.
John's Towing.
I'm sorry.
That's not the only time I had to call him. He wrecked the last truck, so we're just batting zeros for zero with
Clinton
trucks.
is a
Next car's a Corolla.
great customer. He's got the gold card.
Oh, okay.
VIP treatment.
A frequent flyer?
Yeah,
He is.
he is.
All right. Last week, and we're going to be...
Oh, boy.
You all right, Brian? I saw you shuffling around over there.
No, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Last week we had who do we have on? We had Greg Hansen, your fellow commissioner. We had Patty
King
with the Flagler Beach mayor. Thank you. I'm trying to go back to
Okay.
She does
Who
something
else
with
do
the
we have?
city.
Yeah, something out there. Well, we had somebody else on too, didn't we? Anyway.
I wasn't here.
Amy
Oh, that's
Lukasik.
right. Okay. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, we had
Let me keep you
we had
on
Amy.
track here.
Thank you. We had Amy Lukasik, and no, I was trying to think. We had our new consultant who was starting a kind of a grassroots movement to save our beaches, and I thought she was pretty cool, so we had her in to fill in for you. Okay, so that was our lineup. Okay, so last week, Greg Hansen, I go, well, Leanne, she's West County, and she's not a beach girl, and then she's got to take care of the farmers and all the Hawk Creek stuff going on. And then Greg Hansen said this. I want you to respond, okay?
Oh, sure. Okay,
all right,
great.
here we go. And Leanne, of course, she represents West County. And in talking with her, she doesn't disagree we don't need this, but she has to fight for her constituents that voted for her, taking care of West County with drainage and roads, and there's a whole lot of other priorities out there, which is her job as an elected commissioner to look out for those, because who else would, I guess? So,
yeah, well, I'm not going to give her a pass on this because if you add the new half-cent sales tax, they get a benefit, big-time benefit of us funding the water management plan out in the West County.
Oh.
They get a big benefit off of this if we get this passed. So we can't give Leanne a pass. She needs to sit down and look at that and see where the money is going to go.
okay, so there is a benefit, right, with this half-cent. So let's start over from it. Okay, the county commission was looking to pass a half-cent sales tax increase for the funding the beach renourishment plan so we could keep our agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I understand that if we don't do that or fund it, the Army Corps of Engineers says, if you don't care about it, we don't really care about it. And therefore, we're moving on, and it could be devastating for Flagler County, Flagler Beach, A1A, the Barrier Island. It could all fall apart. And all we need is to approve a half-cent sales tax increase for the foreseeable future, and the beaches will be taken care of for the foreseeable future. All done, move on, no problem. But Leanne Pennington says, not so fast.
Well, it's not me just saying not so fast, but when I came on, they were working on their beach management plan. We got a beach management plan. It came out as initially we had started with an unincorporated part of the beach, funding for that. If you go back and watch that, I don't think it's about a year ago now, You go back and watch that plan. There was the board agreed to pass a taxing or benefit unit for people who live on the barrier island to contribute to tax because they have the immediate benefit of beach renourishment. We had, and people were saying, well, Flagler County needs to participate. They come to the beach. Okay, so we added ad valorem in there. We added some of our existing sales tax revenue in there, and we added TDC funds into that. And we were going to solve for that unincorporated problem. And then we were going to continue to workshop and come back to the municipalities. It's kind of, that's where we were building up to. There was no talk of the half-cent sales tax at that time. In fact, the last time the board talked about a half-cent sales tax was 2023. And you probably remember that. You might have been on your board. They rolled out to, I think, Flagler Beach. They said, are you in favor? Because that's what we do. We go to municipalities. Are you in favor? That one was for roads at the time. Are you in favor of a half-cent sales tax? At the time, the commissioners down in Flagler Beach didn't support it. They thought we need to clean up our budget and go to referendum with it for that. But when we were talking about this beach renourishment or beach funding plan, we started with unincorporated. We had a plan, very supportive of that plan. Wasn't perfect because we needed to work on the BU. But it was a plan, and it would have started to. That's the benefit unit. Yeah, because it was based on assessed value of housing over there, and some people were not directly on the beach, but their house was worth more, so they were going to be taxed more, and they felt they didn't have a direct benefit. I'm not on the beach, I'm over here in Island Estates or wherever. So it needed some tweaking. Fast forward, there was joint planning. Joint city meetings that we are not all on. They'll send 2 from your county and 2 from your city and 2 from Flagler Beach, and then it suddenly became, well, let's make it 18 miles at once. We're working on a plan. That was the first I'd heard that there was going to be an 18-mile plan was being worked on by administration, and they didn't have the plan yet. And so at that meeting, which I think was last February, even then the municipalities in Beverly Beach was like, I don't think we're that interested. We're not that interested in giving up our half penny. We're not that interested in funding. Okay, so then it comes out, here's the plan, and it came out with a half cent, okay? And that was the first I'd seen of the half cent for the beach. Mm-hmm. It's the largest plan Flagler County has ever attempted to tackle. It's a $114 million estimate.
Over how many years?
6 years.
Over 6 years.
And I don't know, is it really going to be 6 years? I mean, it's an ongoing thing, right? It's contingent upon not just the half cent. It's contingent upon Palm Coast and other municipalities agreeing to give up a percentage of the half cent. It's contingent. It has ad valorem, so it has everybody's taxes added into it. It has existing sales tax added into it that we already have, which is how we fund other projects. It's how we fund roads. It's how we fund CIP projects. It's got some of that dedicated. It's got TDC funds dedicated to it, right? It's got all of our buckets are paying into this plan, and it's also contingent upon contracts that haven't been written yet. So, and it's contingent upon state and federal grant money that we may or may not
get. It's got
get.
to start somewhere, though, right? I mean,
no, it totally does,
yeah.
And that's what we were like. Well, let's do this unincorporated. I have a feeling like we can get this done, come right back, and start working on the municipality plan, right? And so that's kind of, and then again, they come in that joint city. And again, the joint meeting, there were municipalities going, yeah, and if you can't afford the benefit unit, we'll give a grant for you can't pay your tax, the $160 tax. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm sitting at home watching this meeting because it's not something, we only send 2 from each board. I'm like, well, now we're going to pay other people's taxes for the benefit unit. Like it had a lot of questions. And at the same time, here we come with 2 new county commissioners, right? And Ms. Carney knows a lot about the beach. She was a beach commissioner. And then it started going, you could see there has started questioning things, right? And there was who's supportive of the half cent, And I've got a lot of issues. I have about an $80 million stormwater plan out west that hasn't been funded and hasn't been discussed since we rolled it out, right? They fled from the St. John's. They fled up into Crescent. They fled Dead Creek, comes back up. Everything west of US 1's flooding out to them. It needs to be addressed. We all have really pressing concerns. And ag is a big part of the economy here, and ag is a big employer here. So, and I don't want to not say that. So the other commissioners started asking several months ago, I have questions. Isn't there other mechanisms of funding? Bonding. Have we talked about bonding publicly, the five of us together? Can we bond the TDC funds? Can I bond the existing sales tax? Why do I have to go to a new half penny, right? So that became the topic, and I think it just kind of spiraled out of control a little bit here.
Do you feel like the bonding would be better? And how would that work?
So I don't know. I think it could. I mean, and you're still talking about, if we can bond TDC, you're talking about tourists still paying. I don't know yet because we've not had the data to suggest it or
so when you say bonding for TDC, meaning that you would say, well, since we're expecting this much TDC bed tax, which is all paid by tourists, why don't we borrow
against it?
Right.
Bonding is a borrow against some stream of revenue. The existing half cent. We don't.
Can the TDC do that?
I think so. I mean, there is specific in the statute to bonding, but we don't know because we haven't had those specific talks with consultants on it. But I think that's the question is there anything else? We can't get here on this. And we're also, I think there's some concerns about is it just 6 years? Is this project, how can it not be ongoing, right? How do we know these contracts are going to come in 6 years from now? How do we know we're not going to have to raise ad valorem 6 years from now to cover the rest of the contract?
All right, well, let's hear John Rogers, City of Bunnell. You're part of all this too, if there is one.
Well,
what's your take?
I love Commissioner Hanson. You do not get a free pass because you're not elected just by the citizens on the west side because we don't have single voting districts. You're representing the whole county. So you don't get a free pass. And the late great John Netz, Mayor Netz, Palm Coast Mayor, he said if we don't do something, Flagler Beach is going to be called Flagler Wall.
Well, and I think that's what you missed, John, is we said let's go with this unincorporated plan. That's close to 12 miles of the beach.
There's 18 miles total.
Right.
18 total.
And we're let's start here. Let's continue to workshop and get through the municipality plan. Nobody wants to leave everybody out there hanging. But 114 million at this county level is an exorbitant amount of money for us, and we want to get it right. I think that's all the board is saying right now. I've never heard anybody on that board say I don't want to do this.
So you're not advocating for gutting because I've heard they would have to gut the county and fire people and all this kind of stuff.
No, in fact, and I don't want to come on here and I don't believe in bullying the other elected members of the board into a decision. I think it's distasteful. I don't think that's why we're elected to be here. I don't like to pit each other against each other. I think it's something we need to talk about up there. We are trying to talk about it up there. There's some frustration, but no, nobody ever told me we were going to lay off X amount of people. Nobody ever said, we haven't had those discussions. Maybe they're happening behind closed doors.
All right, okay. So from what I'm hearing, by the way, I've got our Vice Mayor of Palm Coast, Theresa Pontieri, on the line here because I said something.
I thought she might want to say something.
What did I say? What did I say to make you mad, Vice Mayor?
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing? No, you didn't say anything to make me mad. I just said, hey, rather than throw my name out there, why not just give me a call? No, I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate this conversation because it's really important and it affects everybody. And just as the Vice Mayor of Bunnell said, we need to be a gatekeeper for our residents for development. We need to be a gatekeeper for our taxpayer dollars as well and make sure we have vetted all options prior to raising taxes. But no, specifically to development, I think that it's really important to not demonize the developers, but keep in mind that it's our job to make sure that as they come in with proposed developments, we're making sure our infrastructure is in place and that we're bringing in the type of development that is best for our cities and our county.
Okay.
So I have a question, Theresa, Vice Mayor Theresa. So there's also, it's really interesting because I know that's not a Palm Coast project. It's a Bunnell proposal with the reserve. But, you have said the phrase that we've been crop dusted, and it's like that kind of implies to me that developers have kind of come in and sort of taken advantage of in some way the community, made money off it, and maybe left us kind of worse off in some way. And we have, development that's kind of being like, there's always crowds of people that rally against and say, we don't want this, we don't want that. are there developers out there? I mean, does it send a message to say, well, I guess that's not really a place that you can build anything. And if crop dusting isn't the tone that we want to have, what is the tone? What message can we send that would solve the problem?
So, yeah, and I stand by that. I think in a large way we have been crop dusted, and I say that one really good example is just making sure the right policies are in place. For instance, we were not collecting enough in fire impact fees. We had to borrow $3 million from our general fund to transfer over to the impact fee fund for fire stations 22 and 26. That should never happen. So if we have the proper policies in place and we make sure that we're prepared for the development coming in, that is literally our job as elected officials. I think the message that we need to send to developers, to the building community, and to the business community is that we need to collaborate, they need to communicate, we need to figure out in a collaborative manner, and that goes for our joint cities and counties as well. What can we do to make sure that we're working together? We're not spinning our wheels. A really good example, I think, is exactly what Bunnell just went through. Why you would go and try to pass 8,000 units when you have a vice mayor saying, hey, I'll give you 4,500. Why not try to find a happy medium there before bringing it to a vote? Those are the types of things that I think that overall the development community and the cities and the county can work together to make sure that our image is correctly portrayed as one that's willing to work together, but also not willing to give away the farm.
All right. Is there good communication between, because, in Bunnell, I would think that this is kind of over the heads of people that have never worked of anything of this magnitude before. Not putting anybody down, but a planning, person in Orlando has a lot more different experience and in real life type. That makes a whole lot more money as well. And, and here, can't the city of Bunnell and the city of Palm Coast and your planning and zoning and people that work with that kind of team up together on something rather than, it kind of seems like they're like independently working?
Absolutely.
Question.
We consider the county and as our big brother, and the little brother's up at bat right now, so, we need that support. Hey, we don't need to hate the big brother getting mad because the little brother's in the game. Yeah. All the spotlight's on the little brother right now. So I love what the vice mayor of Palm Coast said. And we definitely have to be, listening to everybody, because at the end of the day, them developers are going to go and we're going to be left holding the bag. So I love that crop dusting. We have to be, and what you said, David, I was on the phone with the mayor of Daytona the morning before the meeting, and he was giving me his wisdom, okay? Because, we don't have all the answers, but together, it's a whole lot better. When the county wins or Palm Coast wins, Flagler Beach wins, we all win. When our boards are fighting and fussing and can't get along and talking about each other like a junkyard dog, nobody wins. Pierre called me last night about the article, the new press release about the road, and wanting to know if I was offended about, why wasn't Bunnell mentioned? And then they kind of mimicked Alvin Jackson in the quote, and I'm not offended. Okay, we are all in this game together, and we should be for the betterment of our constituents. Every one of us, we're elected. We represent the whole county, not just Palm Coast, Theresa, not just Flagler County. You represent the whole county. I represent the whole county. So what we do, we got to conduct and do business with the people of the whole county in mind.
Okay, is that possible? I know there's egos and different things.
We get along great. There's some we don't have relations. Theresa, I talk to her often, and I think that we all want that personally, and we're hoping our staff, and that's what the county is hoping with the long range planning board that we bring back, that we'll all start talking about these issues.
Vice Mayor Pontieri, that would be good. Hey, we're running out of time, but I want to get your input. We were talking about the half-cent sales tax increase for the beaches, and the Flagler County Commission is stuck only 2 in favor of it. A workshop is going to be on Monday, right, addressing that, Leanne?
Right, there is
All
a
right,
workshop.
and we're going to restream that on WNZF Facebook page, by the way, so
If you
people want to
watch,
listen. Watch
though,
it.
our last workshop, the half penny's now off the table. The workshop that on Monday is to address other funding
So
opportunities.
you're looking for a plan B that everybody
That
can
was the
agree on.
consensus. That's
okay.
correct.
All right. Okay. What's Theresa Pontieri's take on the beaches? Obviously, we're all invested in making that happen. I don't think anybody's saying we just need to let it go.
No one's saying.
All right. So what's
Yeah, no, I think it's important. Obviously, we know that a lot of tourism dollars come from the beach, and just for our residents, in Palm Coast, we enjoy the beach. Many of us, I think most of us enjoy the beach. But I think it's really important to keep in mind what Commissioner Pennington said. Agriculture is a huge economic driver here. We can't forget about that. Also, if you look at the statistics, about 50% of tourism dollars come from the beach. 50% come from other sources. So we need to make sure we're investing in other tourism efforts in the beach, or rather than the beach as well. But we want to be a part of a plan, and we want to be collaborative. I think it's a really good idea to bond the TDC dollars and to look at other funding mechanisms. I'm a conservative as far as fiscal policy goes, so I want to see us explore all options before we look at raising any taxes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else, Vice Mayor Theresa Pontieri for Palm Coast before we let you go?
No, thanks for letting me crash. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
Well, when I read your text, I said, "Uh-oh, she's mad about something." So.
No, not mad. You just know me. I like to speak for myself.
Okay.
Teresa, thank you for being available. Makes a big difference that we have access and can hear your input on everything. So thank you.
Hey, always willing to be accessible to local news. Love you guys.
All right,
great.
Thanks a lot. Hey, also, real quick, tomorrow is Flag Day, and the Elks Lodge is having a ceremony at 11 o'clock to show respect and honor to the American flag, and everybody is invited. Don't have to be an elk or a moose or whatever animal, other ones there are. And it'd be great to bring kids to it and let them just kind of do a little patriotic type of a thing with that. And, of course, we said Father's Day. Well, we got to wrap it up. John Rogers, thank you for coming in, being our vice mayor. You've been around Bunnell for a long time, looking out for us. And so words of wisdom.
Well, treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated.
Okay. All right. The golden rule.
Golden rule.
Okay. And how do you know how they want to be treated?
They want to be treated like you would want to be treated.
Okay. You go ask them.
Go ask them.
Okay. Right.
They'll email you.
I think that's good, because every neighbor is different. I just like to wave hi and goodbye. I don't want to be invited over for dinner to my neighbors.
Your neighbor. He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's end it there. Anyway, thank you, John. Once again, I do appreciate that. Okay. And also Leanne Pennington, our Flagler County Commissioner. What words of wisdom can you leave us with?
Words of wisdom. I will say this, and thanks for Theresa joining us. We as elected officials need to get along, and we need to talk and have civility on social media with each other, in media with each other, and we'll duke it out at the dais if that's what's needed. But I'm happy to be able to pick up the phone and call John if there's an issue or anything like that, and we need to keep that going.
And us, the
residents
voters,
deserve that.
Yeah, we like to hear that.
Really
We like it when mom and dad get along. So
Combine press releases.
Right. We're trying really hard, but there's, you have to give us space to make good decisions for each other.
All right. Okay.
We just need the time. There's no one saying no. They're saying I need to make sure this is a huge undertaking. You know that $115 million is not nothing to sneeze at for Flagler County.
So Monday the workshop.
We'll get there.
Will be it'll be looking for a plan B.
Yeah.
What time's the workshop?
9 a.m.
Okay. And you can I know the county streams it. We restream on our WNZF Facebook page and our WNZF YouTube channel. We've been doing it with the city of Palm Coast because we pick up hundreds of other listeners that maybe don't know how to find it or don't know where it is. So I don't care where you watch it, but at least when you watch it directly, you really know more than what somebody tells you, and that's what we're trying to do.
And listen, and you know this best. Everyone here in this room knows it best. Boards can be pressured into making dumb decisions. Okay, we don't need that right now. We need to be given the space to do this right for you.
So it could
Get
be.
right.
So after you go through all this, it could be where the half-cent sales tax increase may be the best thing.
That's right. But to that point, there's a tax that we're allowed to put out on referendum, and we should always be considering giving the people the option when they can.
What's the deadline? Do we have?
We're pushing up on, I think, July.
So we got to
That's why
have some funding source by
right.
July, which is next month.
Again, yeah, we're coming. We're going there.
All right. All right, Brian McMillan.
Well, what's really coming to mind to me right now is like, there's places in the world that are being bombed. That's like, and here we are with like, these are our neighbors. You know, we're sitting around here friendly. They've been elected. Like you're elected because you got a lot of support from thousands of people, hundreds of people, depending on, you know, the city and everything. And talk about how peaceful this is. I mean, it's incredible, the system that we have. It's just average Joes volunteering, trying to serve and make it and be the rulers, the governors of the city and the county. And it's just it's a great country that we live in, that this is possible. So yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody.
All right, very good, John Rogers. And,
Let's go Mets.
That's all right, go Mets. I guess I'll